Welcome back, focused learners. Today, we are diving into a brand new explainer, and we're unpacking a truly fascinating issue from Trevor Nell's One Idea, that's pronounced One Idea, newsletter. We're going to look right past all that endless, noisy hype surrounding artificial intelligence, and instead we're exploring a profound paradigm shift towards something called universal abundance. But more importantly, we're going to break down a highly practical framework you can use to actually harness this immense power in the real world. So let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this because the core premise we are looking at today is an absolute jaw-dropper. Imagine a world where we could give top earner, top net worth individual lifestyles to literally every single person on this planet, and not in 50 years, by 2026. Physicist Alex Wisner-Gross says he just doesn't buy the premise that our resources are too limited to make that happen. Now, this isn't just some random internet hype. That statement comes from a highly decorated MIT and Harvard physicist with over 120 major scientific distinctions. When someone of his caliber points to 2026 as a milestone for global top-tier abundance, it absolutely demands our attention.
But to really wrap our heads around this shift, we kind of have to look at where we've been. For literally all of human history, we've been trapped in what we could call the era of scarcity. We were trained from day one to just survive, right? Competing for incredibly limited resources and carefully hoarding this slowly acquired knowledge. Our businesses, our careers, our entire educational system, it was all built on the underlying belief that there simply isn't enough to go around. But AI is fundamentally rewriting that entire story. It's launching us straight into the era of universal abundance. Knowledge is now instantly accessible. High-level human capability is becoming incredibly cheap and incredibly abundant. Our entire mindset is shifting from just trying to survive to boldly exploring the actual limits of what's possible.
Which brings us to a really crucial concept, the parable of hidden wealth. Imagine a freezing, hungry guy sitting on the street right outside a massive bank vault. Inside that vault is a completely untouched fortune in his very own name, but he's sitting there freezing simply because he has no idea it's there. The real tragedy of the AI era isn't a lack of capability, it's unrealized abundance. Think about it. Universal abundance is totally meaningless if you don't know it exists or how to actually unlock the vault. Ignorance keeps you poor, while knowledge is the literal key.
And that leads us straight into a very modern danger, something we call the information trap. Look, we have built an extraordinary information economy, but information all by itself doesn't equal action. The greatest risk we face in the AI era is becoming a society that possesses unlimited intelligence, yet spends every single day just endlessly consuming answers, instead of actually building solutions. It is entirely possible to just drown in a sea of AI-generated information without ever taking a single tangible step forward in your own life. And this brilliantly illustrates the solution to that trap, the activation curve. It's basically the difference between walking alongside a bicycle and actually riding it. You can watch the demonstrations, you can read the forecasts, you can consume all the content you want all day long, but that's just pushing the bike. It keeps the knowledge entirely theoretical. You cannot simply observe abundance, you have to experience it. It's only when you finally get on the bike, when you apply AI to a personal problem of your own, that your belief truly changes. That's when you shift from asking, hey, can this work? To, wow, what else is possible? Now, of course, we are living through a period of immense excitement and massive hype. There are going to be exaggerated claims, companies are going to fail, and we'll see inevitable market corrections, just like we did with the early dot-com bubble. And when that hype bubble bursts, you're definitely going to hear people say, see, I told you so. AI was totally overhyped. But don't let that fool you. The internet didn't disappear when its bubble burst, and neither will AI. Beneath all that loud noise, AI's true, core pattern recognition capability will quietly keep developing and democratizing expertise for everyone.
So how exactly does this democratization happen on a practical level? Well, it breaks down into 3 simple steps. Step 1 is the spark, and that's you, a single person with a concept. Step 2 is the catalyst. This is where you bring in an AI assistant for instant research, analysis, and technical heavy lifting. And step 3 is the execution, rapidly generating business plans, prototypes, and market analyses. Guys, what once required a heavily funded team of incredibly costly specialists now only requires a single individual with curiosity, intent, and a laptop. That is a breathtaking shift in power.
So let's look at what this actually looks like in practice. Real-world evidence of abundance doesn't spread from big top-down corporate mandates. It spreads from person to person through small, undeniable demonstrations. We're seeing young creators who can't afford designer using AI to seamlessly build a professional brand. We're seeing struggling writers finally able to express really complex thoughts with pristine clarity. We're seeing non-technical founders building software that previously required a highly paid developer.
Everyday people are instantly bypassing the old gatekeepers of expertise.
But how do you personally get there? The formula is actually really interesting. Capability from AI plus action from one idea equals evidence, which ultimately creates real belief. We have to stop making these grand abstract statements like AI is going to transform your life or it'll create millions of businesses. Instead, we need to make it incredibly personal. We need to say, here is one specific problem you are struggling with today. Let's spend the next hour solving it together. That right there is how technology moves from abstract potential to undeniable real-world evidence.
And that brings us to the ultimate digital vehicle for taking that exact kind of action. Allow me to introduce the One Idea Action Pack. Look, an idea just sitting inside your head is merely potential. It doesn't actually do anything until you press launch. Developed by Wisdoms, the creators of the Difference Makers in Every City project, this system is designed to be that exact launch button. It takes that immense, abundant intelligence we've been talking about and turns it into a practical tool you can use today to generate your own real-world evidence.
So how does this system actually work? First, it identifies the exact type of idea proposed. Then it applies a specialized action pack framework specifically for it. It reveals hidden opportunities, estimates the potential value creation, and produces a highly practical roadmap designed for that specific kind of idea. The One Idea Action Pack basically helps people transform vague ideas, everyday frustrations, observations, and opportunities into practical experiments, actionable plans, and entirely new possibilities they probably never even considered.
Think of it this way. Unrefined ideas are perhaps the single most expensive waste in the world. We don't need more raw information being thrown at us. We need a facility to process what we already have. The One Idea Action Pack system essentially acts as your personal digital chief of staff. It provides a highly disciplined thinking process strengthened by AI, and it asks the really hard questions so you don't have to carry the exhausting weight of overthinking. It separates the initial excitement from the actual tangible evidence, strengthening your human creativity rather than trying to replace it.
It's also super important to recognize the architects behind this framework. This whole perspective is brought to you by the One Idea newsletter produced by Trevor Neal, author of Confessions of a Serial Entrepreneur and co-founder of Wisdoms and the Wisdoms Difference Makers in Every City project. They are actively out there building this essential bridge between raw, abundant AI capability and tangible, local community impact. They're turning forward-thinking ideas into massive, localized action.
Which leads us to our final thought for today. The biggest challenge humanity is going to face over the next decade won't be creating abundance. The technology is already doing that for us right now. Our real task is distributing the ability to actually experience it. So I want to leave you with a provocative question. What could you do if you really, truly believed that more was possible? And more importantly, what are you going to do about it? It is time to stop consuming the AI hype, engage your ideas, and start experimenting today. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I seriously cannot wait to see what you build.